make your day. Stick around and what they've got to say. The brain train. The brain train. Guess the list you never know, so just sit back and enjoy the show. This train goes everywhere you want to go. The brain train. The brain train.
Give me a one-way ticket to anywhere. And a glazed donut.
To go!
To go.
The brain train. The brain train.
All aboard!
All aboard!
Hey everybody, welcome to the LeBrain train. Off to a great start as I mistime my sip of coffee. As always, it is a shambles. We have Chris Sarr here with us tonight. We have Mr. hopping on a bronze leg all the way from England. I hope you find this show tonight interesting because we'll be talking a lot about Canada tonight. And I hate the way my camera doesn't quite want to focus, but we're having this guy on tonight. BRENT JENSEN, No Sleep Till Sudbury. Might have to work on my graphics a little bit. I tried, eh? I tried. Anyway, we're having on tonight an awesome guest. He's been on the show before, but this is his second visit. Mr. BRENT JENSEN. And this is his first book, No Sleep Till Sudbury. The title of which refers to growing up in small town northern Ontario and waiting for the big Iron Maiden concert to hit Sudbury, the nearest city, really. And hello, Harrison Kopp, all the way from Australia. Should show footage of train crashes. I don't know. Is that really necessary? Hey, T-Bone! T-Bone! And hi, Mom! How are you? Now, Chris Sarr is talking about a show that I did on Wednesday called Start to Continue, where I was showing off some of my new arrivals, which I can also show you guys. But, yeah, one of the co-hosts of Start to Continue was sitting there folding his laundry for the entire show. But, yeah, I did get some new arrivals. Check out this Styx Cornerstone from Encore Records. This is a limited to 1,000 copies red vinyl. Gatefold sleeve. Gotta be so careful. And look at this translucent red vinyl. Which end is up? How sweet is that? Isn't that beautiful? This is one of the few Styx albums I still needed. So I'm happy to finally have Cornerstone in my collection. I really need to do a quick inventory and see which ones I'm missing. Mostly the Larry Gowan years. Missing some of those records. The only one I have from the Gowan years is their excellent, excellent concept album, The Mission, which came up a few times a number of weeks ago when we did our special on concept albums. Anyway, that's my brand new copy of Styx Cornerstone from Encore Records in Kitchener, Ontario, Canada. And I also got some Japanese imports here. This is the debut solo album by Minoru Niihara of Loudness. It's called One from 1989, and there's a ton of guests on this thing. You won't believe who plays on this. We have Ross Valerie and Steve Smith from Journey, and on some tracks you can really hear the Journey rhythm section. On lead guitar, you've got Reb Beach from Winger, Doug Aldrich, who's been in a million bands, most notably probably Whitesnake and Dio. Michael Landau, I can't remember what band he's from, and then a couple Japanese players. On backing vocals, you've got David Glenn Isley, Cal Swan, Mark Slaughter, Maxine Waters, and Julia Waters. So some pretty serious big names on this solo debut by Minoru Niihara of Loudness. Secondly, this is one I'd been looking for a long time. This is the Japanese version of Ace Frehley's Loaded Deck. And the bonus track on this baby is a live version of Shock Me, which runs approximately 9 minutes, 11 seconds. So you know there's going to be some killer solos on there. And insofar as I know, that live track of Shock Me is only available in this Japanese version of Ace Frehley's Loaded Deck. Also Japanese, King's X Tapehead. This features an extra track called 2. And here's the Japanese booklet. If we have anybody from Japan watching tonight, or this morning as the case may be, you can tell me what this says. We brought this album up numerous times during the Martin Popoff show a couple weeks ago. This made a few of our top 5 lists. And also directly related to the Martin Popoff episode, he was raving about the song A Box by King's X. And rightfully so. It's a fantastic track. But the CD single, which came from Germany, has a bonus track on it called Freedom. Can you see that? Freedom. Which is one I've never heard before. This baby set me back $30 all told with shipping and everything else. But, you know, when you love a band, you want all the songs, and I will not just sit there and listen to them on YouTube. I just got to adjust my camera. I won't sit there and listen to them on YouTube. I want to own the CD. I know that's heresy to somebody like Harrison Kopp, who loves YouTube. 9 minutes of Ace. Must be a lot of monologuing. Possibly. I have a feeling it's a lot of soloing, though. So, we also have tonight a giveaway. We're going to be asking you a skill testing question tonight. I don't know if that single was only available in Germany. Probably not. It's probably a European single. It just that happened to be where I bought it. Manufactured in Europe. So it's a European single, but that just happens to be where I bought it. Hello, Mr. Bars. You didn't miss a thing. I was just showing off the CDs that I already showed off on Wednesdays, Start to Continue, aka The Laundry Show. This is what we are giving away tonight. We are giving away a brand new sealed copy of The Cars' debut, digitally remastered, freaking awesome album, and the only reason that this is departing the collection is because I bought it by mistake. I thought that the remastered edition would be the bonus track edition, which it is not. That's something else altogether. I can show you that one. That's the one I meant to order when I actually ordered that. So this is going to go to you, one of you, tonight. This is going to go to one of you. And the same lucky winner will win. And the only reason that the wrapping on this is damaged is because it's signed. This is Jim Crean's excellent 2016 album. Yep. Insatiable. Featuring a ton of guest stars. Phil Narrow, Mike Tramp, Phil Lewis, Carmine Appice, Vinny Appice, Frank Domino, Tony Franklin, Colleen Mastrocovo, Steve Major, Robbie Lochner, Rowan Robinson, Don Jameson, Jimmy Bain, the late great Jimmy Bain, Dave Constantino, and Stan Misek. Trust me, it's a good album. And one of you is going to be winning this package tonight. We're just going to ask a skill testing question about Brent Jensen. And then what you do is you go to this website right here, MikeLadano.com. You'll see on my Brent Jensen post, there's a form that you can fill out. You just type your info in there. Don't leave anything out. It's very important. If you want the CD actually to come to you, it's very important you leave in all the information. Hit send, and we may end up drawing your name out of a hat next week. why don't we say hello to my good buddy, the Deekster. Hey, how are you doing tonight?
I'm good, pal. How are you?
I'm doing excellent.
Good. Good.
You excited?
Oh, yeah. It's always exciting when we have a guest on.
Yeah, a special guest.
A special guest. Yeah, that's right, man. It's going to be awesome.
What are you wearing tonight? Oh! I know you like those guys.
And
the songs that make your skin vibrate. Well, that's definitely cooler than my Kylo Ren.
It's all good.
You got a buddy in the house tonight?
Attaboy, T-Bone.
Yeah, we got Harrison, we got Chris Sarr, we got Kevin, we got hopping on a bronze leg all the way from England. We got my mom, we got Rob, we got a whole bunch of people.
Good. It's going to be fun tonight.
Yeah, we are going to rock it tonight. This is going to be a blast.
You betcha.
So, I have a question for you before we get started.
Sure, man.
This book right here, how many times have you read it? 4. Incredible.
Well, 3. Actually, 3. Remember last time we had Brent on, I told him I basically sped read it in like a weekend. And the following week, I had to slow it down because it was just everything I was reading was like what me and the Erickson brothers had been listening to when we were growing up, different city, but same stuff. I mean,
well, you guys have the Northern Ontario vibe in common.
Yeah, I guess we do, eh? I mean,
you guys would both count as Northern Ontario, right?
Yeah.
For those
Sudbury, yeah.
Yeah. And for those, who are tuning in from England or wherever, there's a great divide really between Northern and Southern Ontario where I live. And it's great that today a guy like Deke and myself can hang out in this way. But back in the old days, folks from Sudbury and Thunder Bay, they didn't get down to Kitchener very often, and vice versa.
No. But I seen on your Facebook page a few days ago, I know T-Bone was commenting about the Sausage Fest. So I think that's going to have to be a road trip, T-Bone. I think we're going to have to, me and you are going to have to road trip down there, man.
I would
as T-Bone officially goes offline because now
right. No, I would love that to I would love that to happen. I hope the Meat Man is watching tonight as well. I think the Meat Man would also identify with a lot of. Hey, I just learned that this graphic won't stay on. Well, we got to have it on for when he gets here. There we go.
Yeah. So.
Sorry, I was going to say, I think the Meat Man would really identify with a lot of No Sleep Till Sudbury as well. I want to talk to Brent a little bit about the crew, and I think the Meat would find that interesting.
And that's kind of the cool thing, Mikey. I mean, River reunion. Yeah. But that's the cool thing, Mikey, is since we last had Brent on, which I think was last November, I mean, I basically grilled him inside out and up and down about all his books. You joined him, but now you've actually gotten into the book yourself. It's kind of cool because you'll be able to give your perspective on it to him, which I know he will dig. So it's going to be good.
I'm about here, but
it's all good, man.
I very much enjoyed. You recommended I read chapter 11 about the cassette, the mahogany cassette box, which we will be talking about tonight.
This is the theme of the show
tonight. We're going to see it tonight. We're actually going to see this legendary mahogany tape box of Brent Jensen's, and I can picture it because I think we all knew somebody in the neighborhood or an older brother of somebody who had one of those with the drawers.
T-Bone actually, T-Bone had a mahogany one, but it was mounted on his wall. So he had all his cassette tapes in alphabetical order from like A to Z. And, occasionally I take a look at it and I go, oh, yeah, he's filling up the AC/DC, the Aerosmith. What's Bad English doing here, man? And then, we go down and
You just reminded me
I can't leave it alone.
I got to open up my notes here. You reminded me. I got to open up my notes. There's one thing that Jensen said in his book. Alphabetized by band and then sorted by release date.
Yeah.
That's how we serious rock fans file our music. Alphabetical by band and then chronological by release date. But I have a question for him about that as well. He's not getting off the hook without details. So just checking to see if there's any issues with Brent, but I haven't received any messages, so we are so far so good. Just waiting for the guest of honor. T-Bone saying that you need to dust off the bass for the Current River reunion.
Yeah, well.
And then Dar, me, Rug, and T-Bone all had one of those on our wall. All alphabetical, and yes, by release date.
Yeah,
Thank you, Dar.
they were all the Ericssons were at first all cassette guys. And then I know once I got into CDs, T-Bone joined along. But Dar was one of the first guys. Someday we'll have to get him on here, and he can rave about his one of his all-time favorite albums, and that's Paul's Boutique by the Beastie Boys.
It is a good album.
Yeah, I think that would be pretty cool. Actually, we should just get both those yahoos on with us sometime.
Do you like the Ericsson reunion tour?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Call it the Finnish Mafia Friday special.
The Finnish Mafia Friday special. Is that the origins of the Ericsson name?
No. I've seen a few whack downs, but we'll leave it at that.
I like to imagine that they are great descendants of Leif Erikson, the great Viking hero. Well, you never know.
I don't know about that, but they like to brawl at times.
They do,
They used to. Dar and Rug were like the Van Halen brothers brawling at 4-hour beer fest. Oh, man. Yeah.
Okay, so Brent just messaged he's going to be on in 2 minutes. I'm going to take that 2 minutes to once again remind everybody that we are going to be asking a skill testing Brent Jensen question tonight. And you are going to win these 2 CDs. Brand new. The Cars' excellent debut featuring Good Times Roll, Just What I Needed. You're All I've Got Tonight, Moving in Stereo, so many great tracks. And Jim Crean's autographed, excellent, Insatiable album featuring Vinny Appice, Carmine Appice, Tony Franklin, Phil Naro, Mike Tramp, Phil Lewis, the Rowan Robinson, the late great Jimmy Bain. The names go on and on. You're going to win one of these tonight. We haven't decided on a... What's that, buddy?
Mike Tramp.
Mike Tramp, White Lion.
Yeah.
We haven't decided on a question tonight, but we're not going to make it too hard. You just have to watch the show and pay attention.
We'll figure it along, and get your ballots in so Mikey can make the draw, and both sealed CDs, not even used, folks, not even used on this show.
Never touched by human hands.
Yeah, no kidding.
The Ericssons are the Vikings. Yeah, I think that is 100% true.
Yeah.
Another thing we're going to be doing at some point tonight, and I think I'm going to lead into a question. We're going to be showing some clips tonight because it's the 1 year anniversary of me doing this, which is hard as fuck for me to believe. We went into a state of emergency in Ontario on March 17th last year, and I decided to go live that Friday. I can't believe we've been in a state of emergency for a year, but here we are.
We are still in a state. This city's in a mess, but I don't want to even get into that right now. You can just Google it. COVID Thunder Bay.
Yeah,
it's all there for you.
Yeah, it's all the dirty details. But you and I were talking earlier tonight, and I said to you that I've been doing this for a year. I haven't missed a week, and I'm gonna keep plugging away. If I am able to do a show that week, I am gonna do a show that week because as much as I say I do it for you, I do it for me.
Of course, man.
It's just I remember doing that live thing the first Friday. And I didn't do it for 2 hours straight or whatever, but I kind of went like in 40-minute chunks. You'll see a shirt change when you see the clips. You'll see a shirt change, so that's how you know I did it in chunks.
Oh, it's nice. It's just like watching the Van Halen Live Right Here, Right Now video.
Right.
And Sammy changing shirts on the fly.
Right, exactly.
Brilliant.
You're going to see that.
Brilliant.
You're going to see that tonight.
Brilliant.
Oh, happy 1 year, says Eric Litwiller, and 1 year ago. Rob, pay attention because you'll be coming up tonight. Trust me. But I would like to introduce to you our very, very, very special guest, a leftover person, perhaps. We'll get into that. Mr. Brent Jensen, please welcome him to the show.
The Brain Train is proud to present Brent Jensen!
Cheers, Brent!
Hey, man. Wow. What an intro.
That was our very own T-Bone Erickson.
That's incredible.
Our very own T-Bone. I'm glad you liked it.
Thank you,
glad you
T-Bone.
enjoyed.
That was
How are you
amazing.
doing?
I'm doing great, man. How are you guys doing?
We're
Pretty
good.
darn good, all things considered.
Good.
Yeah.
Sorry I was a little bit late there.
Quite
All
all right.
good, buddy. It's all good.
We were just yammering on about you and that kind of that kind of thing.
I like your shirt, Ladano.
Yeah, it's a decent shirt, eh? Can't remember where I got it, but I think if you go to the website scrolling down below you, you might be able to find out some information about where you can buy a shirt just like mine.
If I can't, can I borrow it? Oh,
Yeah, sure. Oh, look at that. There's also mugs.
I like that. Wow. You guys are like my merchandising men. This is amazing.
Well, what can we say? We're both fans, right?
Thank you.
We got lots to talk about tonight with you again, Brent, and especially of all weeks, what a great time to get you on because there's some stuff going on in your world that we definitely want to discuss with you. We want you to talk about it, and of course we're getting back into the No Sleep Til Sudbury book again, my Bible,
Awesome.
and we're just gonna. It's just basically this is just gonna be a free for all. You're basically just hanging with two yahoos tonight.
You guys are so great, man. Seriously, I appreciate you doing this for me. Honestly, I really appreciate
I
it.
appreciate you doing this for us.
Hey,
I mean, one of the things I'm going to do tonight, and I'm sorry to have to inflict this upon you, but I'm going to show you a 90-second clip of the very first show that I did a year ago. And again, apologies in advance, but you'll see that this is the amateur hour. By all means, this is the amateur hour. But, I'm doing the 1 year anniversary tonight, but you are celebrating 4 years of your podcast, No Sleep Till Sudbury.
yes.
That's insane. 200 episodes.
It's hard to believe, I was sitting down here earlier thinking about that, and it's been 4 years, and I don't know what to think of it. I mean, like when I first started, I didn't know what would happen. I didn't know if I'd do 10 or 50 or what, but I don't know. It's a crazy feeling to know that I've done 200 of these things. So I'm pretty happy.
Oops, shit. I'm sorry. First technical flub of the evening. I just kicked the guest out.
Oh,
Oh, no.
And that's all for tonight's show, folks. Sorry about that. But now you've kicked it up a notch. You've got the new Patreon membership levels.
Yeah, and after 200 shows, I thought that was something that I needed to do. And for two reasons. I don't want to have to use commercials in the podcast.
Yeah.
Podcasts can take a long time. I mean, like per episode, they're probably about 10 hours to do each.
Yeah.
Whether you have a guest or whether you do a solo episode, it's a lot of prep and it's a lot of editing and all the rest of it. So it takes a lot of time, and I don't want to have to use commercials, and I don't want to have to join a network because I just don't, I don't believe in that stuff. So I thought that I would join Patreon and see what happens. So we'll see. I just joined on Monday. So,
Really?
hopefully it works out.
Cool.
So quickly, I would like to talk about that. Like you have certain levels. I know me and Mikey, we jumped on it right away. But I just
And
want
thank you
people
both.
out.
Sorry, but yeah, thank you
Oh
both.
yeah,
I appreciate that.
of course,
And
buddy.
on Monday, you'll hear your names on the show.
Woohoo. First perk.
Yeah.
Yeah, first perk.
First perk.
But anyways, I was going to say, like, people look at like you said it best about the commercials.
Yeah.
There's nothing I don't like, or something that drives me bonkers is when I'm watching YouTube podcasts or interviews. Oof, they go into those two commercials and you can't get by them one way or the other. And
Right.
I am not paying for a YouTube premium.
No,
Sorry, not happening. But totally see your angle. I mean, it would kind of suck having your podcast and then all of a sudden you breaking off for a commercial, and rightfully so. I mean, everybody should get a piece of pie if you're putting the amount of effort that you have into what you've been doing the last 4 years on the podcast. So, you look at the different tiers that you can get, and all I got to say, folks out there, I'm not going to tell you the price, but I did some investigative fact checking today. And what does Brent Jensen and a McDonald's drive-thru have in common? Any guesses? You can get.
I got one guess.
Okay.
McDonald's used to have a slogan that smiles are free, and Brent Jensen's always making me smile. Is that it?
I like that.
Unbelievable.
I got it?
No. For the price of a gold membership to follow Brent on Patreon for a month is 2 premium small brewed McDonald's coffees. That's how cheap it is.
Awesome.
And that's it.
That was you can. Patreon is great because they offer you flexibility in terms of what you can contribute as a supporter. Mm-hmm. So if you want to start out at like low, or if you want to pay for the high stuff, whatever it is, there's flexibility. But like that is set up, Deke. That area, that tier is set up for people who just like the podcast and maybe want to chip in. That's it.
Yeah. Yeah.
The other thing that people don't know when you set up podcasts, I mean, there's a lot of costs associated with that. You have to pay for, hosting and all the rest of it. And these are things that I've done for 4 years. And like I said in the video, I don't mind doing that stuff, but I don't, if we're going to go forward, I don't want to have to use commercials to foot all these costs going forward. So I think that's probably the best way to do it. And I hate, I try to think of it, from the perspective of being a listener, right? I don't want to have to listen to a commercial if I'm listening to my favorite podcast. It just disrupts the whole flow of the thing.
Totally.
That was my mindset.
Especially on YouTube, because it seems that the commercials there are rather random in their placement, doubling the disruption.
Yeah. And I've talked to networks about hosting the podcast, and it's, you relinquish a lot of creative control. So where I think that what I do is something, that I want to do, and I think it's a good idea. I've been approached by people who said, okay, if you tweak it and do this instead, we're willing to work. But I don't want to do that. I want to remain independent.
100% understand that.
Yeah.
I mean, Deke and I, Sony's been knocking on our door saying, when can we buy your show? But we got to have creative control over it. And Deke and I have been saying no to Sony all this time. So we can relate to your story.
I thought it was a cease and desist order they were sending us.
Maybe it was.
So basically what I was trying to get at with my joke that totally bombed was that it's basically 2 small coffees for the price of no sleep
for a month.
Patreon for a month.
For a month.
Yeah. So you know what? Support them.
Your joke did not bomb. I got your joke.
Yeah. Me too.
Yeah.
I just said I'm drinking Nespresso and I can't relate to your way of life.
And I can relate.
There you go.
Cheers.
So why don't we do one thing real quick, just so we can give the viewers lots of time to assimilate this information. We're doing a CD giveaway tonight. We got a sealed copy of The Cars debut and a signed copy of Jim Crean's excellent Insatiable, featuring a host of guest stars. We need a really easy Brent Jensen question.
That's awesome.
You are the question. Something easy though. You just have to watch the show to know the answer. So maybe something like, what's the name of Brent's last book?
Okay, so how about this? What is the tagline of the podcast?
What is the tagline in his podcast? And I guarantee you that this subject, this tagline, the saying, will come up many times tonight. So this will not be a very hard question at all. So all you got to do is pay attention to the show, watch the show tonight, and submit the question. Go to MikeLadano.com. You'll see a form where you can fill in all your information, and we will draw your name out of a hat next week. So, what is the tagline on Brent's podcast? We'll talk about that. Great question. I love it. Great question.
Awesome. First one that came to my head.
If you don't mind, I'd like to start with a podcast-related question.
You can ask me whatever you like, sir.
Well, yeah, I was actually asking Deke if he minded, but I'm fascinated by. You did an episode on Motley Crue's Matthew Tripe story,
Yes. Yeah.
and that thing's always fascinated me. And you expanded upon it a bit in the book there. For the people watching, Matthew Tripe claimed that for a brief period in time between Shout at the Devil and Theater of Pain, he was Nikki Sixx, when the original Nikki Sixx, Frank Ferrano, was injured or incapacitated in some way, and Matthew Tripe claims he never got any credit for being Nikki Sixx for this period of time. He claims he recorded, wrote songs, all this stuff. Now, you debunked a bunch of that stuff in your book a bit. You know, the dates here don't line up and blah, blah, blah. But you did mention one interesting thing.
What's that?
You said that there's a photo of Nikki Sixx where you're like, you know, that one photo could have been Matthew Tripe.
Yes. His face was really round, right?
Do you think there is even a shred of truth to the Tripe story, that maybe he did a photo shoot or a concert or anything?
I kind of feel like there might be. But here's the thing. With a lot of these conspiracy theories and UFOs and the Loch Ness Monster and all the rest of it, we want to believe this stuff, right? Mm-hmm. We want to kind of, dip our toe in and I don't know. When I first read that story, I read it in Kerrang! Magazine in like 1987 or something like that. And it fascinated me just because it was compelling. I mean, those photos were very compelling, that one in particular. And who knows? I mean, like, who knows what happens behind the scenes? You know that there's all sorts of crooked stuff going on. Mm-hmm. I don't know. Maybe it did happen. It's fun to think about.
Sure is. We'll never know.
Oh,
there's no way. It's like JFK. We'll never know.
You see, the thing about Matthew Tripe, though, is that he didn't represent himself very, effectively. Right. So he, at the beginning, I mean, maybe there was a little bit of he talked about the fact that he wrote certain songs and stuff like that. And the photos kind of grabbed me. But then the more he talked, his problem was the more he talked, the more he kind of, didn't really do himself any favors.
Yeah, he really kind of dug a hole. The more details that he offered up.
Which
is kind of like the classic police interrogation technique. The more they talk, the more they dig themselves in the hole.
Well, yeah. It kind of led me to believe that he was kind of more of an attention seeker than anything.
Yeah.
It's
we saw history repeat itself later on with the fake Peter Criss,
Yeah.
I don't know a lot about that. What was it? Somebody said that they found him under a pier or something like that.
Tom Arnold. Tom Arnold took him into his house.
Tom and Roseanne.
Yeah.
Seriously?
Yeah.
Yeah. They thought he was actually Peter Criss.
Well, hey, man.
It really broke nationally when Donahue covered it on, Phil Donahue, when he covered it, and he had Peter Criss on, the imposter, and Tom Arnold, and it was crazy.
Well,
Peter Criss actually handled it well. I mean, he didn't go on there and go like, he understood that the dude was destitute. Tom and Roseanne were trying to help him out, and then somebody else got the National Choir got involved and said, "Hey, man, you Peter Criss? Yeah, here's $500. Here's $500 to say you are Peter Criss, right?"
Yeah, that's it. That's it.
He rolled with it.
There was a time, guys, when none of us would have been surprised if actually that was Peter Criss under that bridge. And the rest of the band probably the same, right? 1978, the dude was a mess.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And then look at his first.
Well, when he was on Donahue with the guy, he didn't actually look all that well. He looked kind of pale. He was very, very big at the time.
Yeah.
And he didn't look great. He looked a lot healthier when he rejoined Kiss.
Do you guys know that he used to travel in '77 when Kiss was like, owning the world? He used to travel with his drum cases, but one of his drum cases was filled with Remy Martin, and it was fitted. They inserted a fitting as they would one of his drums. They inserted fitting for the Remy Martin bottles themselves. So they traveled with his drums. So like one of the cases was actually marked like RM, and they would open it up, and there was 2 Remy Martin bottles. That one went to the hotel, and so when he got to his hotel, that case was waiting for him in there, and he would open it up. Yeah.
Wow, that's a great story.
That is a great story. I never even heard that.
Yeah.
Wow, that is whacked. But you mentioned earlier too, Brent, Kerrang magazine. I mean, they were always kind of on the cusp with getting that stuff out, probably because they were coming out like bi-weekly, not like, as you call them, the handlers, like Circus and Hit Parader, which I totally agree with you. After I read that in the book, it's like, damn, I got so soaked by those magazines back in the 80s. But I even remember with Kerrang, I think one of the issues I had was the first time that it was revealed that Judas Priest was touring with 2 drummers.
Yes.
On the Turbo tour, and and they didn't take too kindly to that when it got leaked out. So and there was obviously merit to that one too, with Jonathan Vallon being supposedly the second drummer underneath Dave Holland.
Yeah. The thing that I liked about Kerrang is that they kind of hung out with the band. So Hit Parader and Circus were more businessy, and they were more of a magazine that covered music. But Kerrang was the reverse. It was more of guys who hung out with the bands, and then they would write for a magazine.
Yeah, it was like fans writing. Yeah.
Well, it really was. And I mean, like, it wasn't uncommon for the Kerrang offices to hold parties where Lars Ulrich would show up with a bottle of Absolute vodka and say, hey, Xavier Russell, let's and then they would write about that. But that was the cool thing for me about it, is that it was more real, and it wasn't, you would read Hit Parader was like, magnum opus from Judas Priest, and it was just such bullshit. It was like the Sears catalog of music magazines, right?
Yeah.
They used that phrase magnum opus so many damn times. That's how I learned the phrase, was from Hit Parader magazine.
I know. It was just so stupid, right?
Right. Everybody.
Hey, I got wasted with Lars last night. Do you want to hear about it? And then that was an article.
Yeah. That's the thing.
One article that was just like Axl Rose and Sebastian Bach just partying together. That was like an entire article. It was the cover story, and it's like, what am I reading here?
That's the thing with like Circus magazine. They used to drive me batty because they would post a picture, like say for instance, since we're talking Motley Crue, say from the theater. The Girls tour, and they'd say right on the cover, review of the Girls tour, new Motley Crue show, and I'd open it up and it'd be pictures from the Theater of Pain tour, and it'd be like, oh man, and they got me every freaking time. New Iron Maiden pictures. Hey, come on, man, this is from the Power Slave tour, really? So it's like,
and what's funny about that is that like we knew from Iron Maiden fans, like you knew that Bruce Dickinson wore those kind of Harlequin style pants during the Peace of Mind tour.
Right.
Yeah.
And he did not wear those on the Power Slave tour, right?
No.
So those are things that like real metal fans would pick up on. And when you saw that a picture was labeled as, hey, Power Slave tour in, Albuquerque. No, that's a Peace of Mind shot from, 2 years ago. So don't try to fuck us around.
Yeah.
They hosed me time and time again.
They stole your money.
They did.
I bought Hit Parader every freaking month.
Oh, so did I. I did too. I bought Circus too.
Yep. And let's just say real quick, rest in peace, Jerry Miller from Metal Edge magazine.
Yeah.
That was one of the ones that I bought all the time.
Yes.
Yeah, so did I. Yeah.
Sure.
Brent, where you were growing up first in Espanola, was it hard to get those kind of magazines and music? I wanted to ask you this last time when you were on, because I mean, growing up here in T-Bay, the magazines got here, even like records, you could go to the record shop and find Y&T Mean Streak on vinyl, which, was kind of, like stuff like that. It was like, you know what, it's not so bad record shopping here back in the day, but How about your neck of the woods? Did you have to go out of town looking for that stuff, or?
Well, what's that noise?
Well, that's my lab. She wants out of the room. I'm talking too much.
She hates this interview.
Well, I think this is a compliment here. Brian was just listening to your podcast for a minute, and he says your voice is a close second to Jeff Woods. So
Hey!
I didn't know it was a competition, but I think that's a compliment. I hope it's a compliment.
Yeah.
I love Jeff Woods.
Thank you, sir. Cheers. I appreciate that. Thank you.
There is something to be said about listening to a good voice. I listen to your podcast at work, and I find it relaxing. So there you go. It's a therapeutic podcast.
A voice for, how does that go? A voice for TV, a face for radio.
Something like that.
Anyway.
I call it no sleep till therapy, maybe. I don't know. But it works. It works for me.
So I'd have guests on at the Spoke Club, and what I would do is I would bring them down into this room that was a screening room for movies. And that would be my studio. It's like it was a really cool private room, and the walls were all soundproofed and everything. And I would turn the lights down low, and people would come in and be like, "Whoa, like what's going on in here?" Like Tara Sloan came in and said, "Hey, like, is this safe?" But so they would sit down opposite me, and we would talk about music in these really comfortable chairs, and the lights are mellow, and we'd be having this conversation about music, and it was almost like people would kind of get drowsy and be like, "Wow, this is so relaxing." But maybe it was my voice. I don't know.
Maybe. But
You're
sorry,
doing a great service.
I hijacked Deke's question about the magazines, how hard they were to get in Espanola.
Yes. So I had to go deep to Sudbury to get Kerrang, for example.
Mm-hmm.
Hit Parader and Cream were sold at the convenience stores. I remember they were pretty easy to get, but Kerrang was tough. I had to drive to Sudbury to get that one. It came every week though, which was really cool. Not cool for the gas bill, but I got it anyway. I loved it. I loved it that much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know in town here we only had one store that would get Kerrang, and they would get like 5 copies. So you figure there's about like 5,000 mullet heads back then trying to clamor for an issue. So it was like I got more misses than hits. Let's put it that way. But if I ever make it down to your place, man, I'm gonna rummage through those boxes of Kerrang.
I like right through here. I've got like a huge stack of Kerangs. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
those guys were the best writers. Just bar none.
I still read it. I love that. I love that magazine. It's fantastic.
Oh yeah.
Well, you said a lot of it was like fans getting a chance to write for a magazine. A buddy of mine actually did get to write for Kerrang, and one of the highlights, one of my favorite things that he ever told me was that when he interviewed Ronnie James Dio, he asked him if he's actually ever ridden a tiger.
What did Dio say?
I don't remember. I don't remember. I'm pretty sure the answer is no. He's never ridden a tiger, but I'd like to think that Dio had something wittier than that to say.
That is so funny.
Yeah,
that's one of the questions that like you either risk him walking out of the room and telling you to fuck off, or he laughs and the interview goes so much better after that.
I know it was the latter. It went well. But I don't remember what Dio actually said to him. So, but that's just a great story about a fan getting to do. That's a dream come true right there. You can put that on my tombstone. I'm done.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, definitely.
So before we get into fun and games, what's the status? What's the word on book 4?
Wow. There isn't really a word. There's no word. It's probably about, I would say it's probably about 40% done. Not quite half, but maybe more than 1/3. Yeah.
Okay.
And it's just a matter of me. See, the thing about me is that like the podcast is going on. I had speaking stuff going on that's not going on anymore. I have this really cool project that I can't really talk about right now that is in the works. So that takes a lot of time. And there's all kinds of other things that I'm working on. And the book, unfortunately, is way over here. But I will eventually get to it, and I want to put it out because I think it's a great idea. Eventually it will come out, just not in the near future.
It will come out, so we do not have to nickname you George R.R. Jensen.
No.
The book will come.
40% done right now.
And just to borrow a tagline from your podcast, would the book make your skin vibrate?
I think it would.
Pay attention, folks. That's important for you to remember.
There's a hint.
There's a hint there.
There's a hint.
I already saw one wrong guess, so I want to make sure
right.
I hint
What?
more.
What was,
Brian guessed wrong.
What was the guess?
No Sleep Till Sudbury. But that's the name of the podcast. That's not the tagline.
That's right. There is a tagline.
Yeah. I don't know if T-Bone's guessing here, but that's a good one. 50 Shades of Sudbury.
Close.
He's in his Scotch room.
So can I just tell you that one of the things, if you support me on Patreon, you will be able to do the intro to the show. So you'll read it'll be like, yeah, hey, this is Mike Ladano, and you're listening to No Sleep Till Sudbury, the show that ... That's the actual hint right there, folks. But that is an opportunity that you'll have. So record that, send me a WAV file or an MP3, and I'll put it in the show, and it'll actually play.
That is cool.
Wouldn't that be fun? I think that's fun.
That is.
It is cool, and that's the thing. Like you're jiving it up to include us or the listeners, and to make all involved. I've seen that you're gonna be adding polls and whatnot. I think I was reading there the other day. We're gonna add all kinds of stuff. Yeah,
tons of stuff. So there's like unreleased, so deleted content. So whenever I have a guest on, you have a little chat before the show, and then there's the show, and then you have a little chat after the show, and all manner of things happen during these 3 periods, right? So you might talk for an hour before, you might talk for maybe 2 minutes. Then there's the show, which everybody is exposed to, but then. The Grapes of Wrath founder, Kevin, what's his name again?
Kevin Kane?
Terrible, Kevin Kane, sorry. I was thinking Kevin Keane is a friend of mine. Kevin Kane, we talked for like longer than we did for the show. So all that stuff is deleted content, and I've got, over 200 shows. I've got a bunch of that stuff.
That's awesome.
That's awesome. So yeah.
I'm looking forward to hearing that stuff.
And bloopers are fun. So that was probably the most fun thing that, I was going through all the stuff that I just kept, and I don't know why I kept it, but sometimes you'll start the show with a guest and you'll screw it up. But all that stuff kind of got saved, right, in a file. And so I was going through it and hearing all of the kind of deleted, bloopers and cursing and all that stuff, and all that stuff's there too.
And see, folks, when you subscribe to Brent, you get that. Good evening, Derek Williamson.
Oh, fun.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, so
Plus, you get the swearing. Maybe you should put more emphasis on it's going to be uncensored, because that always worked for me when I was buying something rock related. If I see a big uncensored on it, it's like, wow, that's got to be.
It is.
That's cool.
It's very. I'll put one of those. What is it? PRMC stickers on it.
PMRC,
yeah. No, it is. It is completely uncensored. Obviously the bloopers feature a lot of cursing, and I don't leave them out because it can be frustrating when you're trying to nail something and you're like on your 5th take, right?
Yeah.
When you look at the show, you think it's just like, but there's a lot of stuff that goes in the background or behind the scenes that doesn't get put out there.
Right.
Well, sorry, Mike, like you said, Brent, you really have to do your homework with, and you can tell, me and Mike can tell as listeners on your podcast, they do your homework. And case in point was the recent one you did with Kathy Valentine from the Go-Go's. I mean, if me and Mike were to interview, we'd be doing our homework too, big time, because it's like, okay, you played bass,
right.
You have to really do a deep dive into their work, or they just might not, how much time do you actually put into prep? I mean,
3 or 4 hours.
Yeah.
Just because, guys, I think that's important, and I think that's a sign of respect for your guest, right? So your guest, your guest doesn't have to do your show. So someone like Kathy Valentine especially, so she didn't have to come on my show. So I thought, I'm going to make it worth her while. I'll come up with 2 or 3 points that I think that she might be interested in talking about in addition to her songs. And one of them was a question, maybe it was a little bit kind of selfish, but it was a question that I had about a go-go song. And that hand clap that comes in on the 5th beat. I always wondered about that because it's very unorthodox and weird. And she was game, and she answered it, and we had a good exchange. But I always try to anticipate when I have a guest, like, what do they want to talk about? Do I have something maybe interesting that they might want to engage in? Or, obviously I want to promote whatever they're promoting at the time. But I think that is important to. And a lot of people tell me in that third bit after the show, they'll say, "Wow, I can't believe you asked me that," because nobody they talk to reporters or interviewers or podcasters who just go, they don't know who they are. So they say, "Hey, so you play guitar in this band. What's that like?" And it's just such an insulting question because these people have like 10 interviews in one day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if you can talk about something that's half decently germane and say, "Hey, like on this record, that you recorded in 1982 or whatever, I noticed that this is like this," and then they go, "Oh, wow, that's kind of cool," and then you have a real conversation. Why would you want to do that?
Yeah.
It doesn't take a lot of time.
So, like going out, like reaching out to guests, you do all this on yourself, yourself.
I did at the beginning, and then there was a point when PR people started to reach out to me and say, this person is available or that person is available, and we went from there. But I still do reach out to people that I want to be on the show. There are people that I would like to talk to because I want to hear about their music, and I want to have a conversation with them about music. So I'll reach out to them too. And it's a crapshoot. I mean, some people are game, some people are not.
Oh, it's a crapshoot. Trust me.
This guy is my PR guy right here.
Right? It's not easy. It's not easy.
No, it's not easy. I mean, it's like don't get me wrong. It's not like I've sent out like 10,000 invites to people.
You did ask Wolfgang Van Halen.
Yeah, I did. I went. I went for the stratosphere. We can say that because we both all know that ain't happening.
That's
but I thought,
happening.
you know what? I'm going to do it on Twitter, and I sent it. I just told them our deal here, and I sent them a link of one of our YouTube videos, and I knew there would be nothing coming back, but I thought you never know. And I send out a few, and how I view it is if I just explained that me and Mikey do this thing. We're just a small fish in a big stream pond. We're just passionate music fans. We like to talk music. We don't talk anything personal unless anybody wants to bring anything personal up. We just like to dig into the records and da-da-da-da. And I know it's like some guys have read it and they don't respond, and a couple have not read it and not done anything, and that's okay. And I move on.
Rejection. Just one rejection. One guy who just said no, but that's it.
Who's that?
Should I say?
No.
You don't have to say.
And you know what? I don't even remember who it was.
It was a Canadian band. It was a drummer.
Oh, that guy. Yeah, never mind. We're not going to get into that.
No, but whatever. I get it. He's busy doing his own thing. I think he's got a book coming out.
Yeah, and it's like I get it. So it's like a one-shot deal. Here's our deal. I'm not going to come back 2 weeks later and say, "Have you thought about it?" Or, "Hey, it's me again." No, it's okay. I just move on, and we've got a pretty decent base, obviously, with yourself and Martin Popoff, and we've had Greg on, and I was lucky to reach out to Mike Fraser, and he was totally game, which was really cool.
That was awesome.
Wow.
If you get a chance to talk to Mike Fraser, that guy has stories, man.
Yeah.
Sorry, you've already talked to him?
I might reach out to him.
Oh, you might reach out to him, yeah.
Yeah, you should. I mean, he's fantastic. He's got, everything I asked him, or me and Mike asked him, he gave tons of stories, and he kept the stories cool. He wasn't talking about extracurricular activities. He was talking about recording processes and Jimmy Page and David Coverdale being chained out of this Little Mountain Sound when it changed ownership back when they were recording the record, and Jimmy Page and David Coverdale are standing outside in the street of Vancouver saying, "Why can't we get into our studio?" And
why can't we get our equipment?
Mike, we got our equipment, and Mike Fraser's running around downtown looking for a payphone because there was no cells back then. Like, that stuff is gold, man.
Oh, for sure it is.
You don't know it, right? And he was telling us, you know, how long it took to do that album. It was so much fun. And then the real best thing about that is not only is he game, but it's really cool to see the next day on his Facebook and Twitter, he thanked us for having him on.
Yeah.
And, you know, like, you know, we don't expect that. We just thanked him for coming on. And then he said, you know, I hope to do it again sometime. And we thought, boom.
That's awesome.
And we're going to bring him back, you know, so it's
good.
We got so much more to talk about with him. And, you know, so I shouldn't say me and Mike both do it, but, you know, we kind of hit a grand slam on that one, and we were pretty jacked. So for the misses, that's a pretty big hit in our eyes. So as everybody we've had on here who's willing to take Friday night or whatever night off their schedule to hang out with us two misses.
Sorry, I have to interrupt real quick. I don't know if you're hearing any swearing in the background. The Leafs are not doing well, so there's some swearing in the background. Yeah. I can hear it, so I just want to make sure you guys, if you're wondering what the swearing is.
I've been doing some swearing myself, so I'm fine.
Okay, good.
So that's the thing. I was just curious on how you would go about, not that you have to give me your secrets or anything, but I was just kind of curious. Are you doing it the way I'm doing it? So it's like, you know.
No, you know, it's almost like organic networking, right? So when I first started out, I spoke to people about the idea, and some people, you know, blessed them and said, yeah, I think that's great. I would love to do that. And, you know, the good thing about the show is that it's almost, you know, it's an opportunity for them to talk about the music that they love. So in essence, they're talking about themselves. So really, it's an opportunity to talk about yourself. So who doesn't want to do that? So from there, you can leverage, you know, if you've got guests like Ron McLean or if you've got guests like Rick Emmett, and it just kind of goes from there. Oh, the poor Leafs.
Just as you said Ron McLean's name.
But, you know, the thing is that there's going to be great people like Ron McLean out there who say, yes, I'm happy to do it. And by the way, I'm happy to help you if I can. Then there's going to be other people who, you know, you'll send stuff to. Here's an example, and I won't say his name, but I sent to a name that you probably both would know. And I said, you know, I'd love to have you on the show. The show is about this. These people have been on, and love to have you. And so he sent a note back saying, how many downloads does your podcast get?
Yeah.
Right. So the eternal question. And I said, it doesn't matter. I mean, it's a passion project, but here's the number. And then right away he sent an email back saying, I'm sorry, I'm extremely busy right now. And this is a name that you guys know. And I sent it around to all my friends, and I was like, holy shit, like how brutal is that?
Yeah. Well,
like, I'd rather not know, you know. Don't even hint. And you know, I got to say something really good about a buddy of ours, Martin Popoff. You know, he sent me a message, and he's like giving me tips on how to improve our numbers. You know,
he's a good dude.
He was trying to help us. He was giving us guidance. So, you know, a guy like Popoff and yourself, you know, we really appreciate all the support, and you know, we try to give it back. And if I can help you move a couple of books or mugs tonight, I feel great.
I appreciate that. I mean, we all help each other, right? Regardless of where you are on the scale, we all help each other. And Martin, I remember, helped me when I was first starting out. He's a fantastic guy. I went to he invited me to his office, and we had a chat. Wow. And he's always been good. We did a book signing together. Yeah, he's fantastic.
Actually, I just want to. I had some notes here, and since we're talking about Popoff, this relates. I made some notes here. I just wanted to tell you my theory of the universe. Okay. The universe is egg-shaped, is my theory. Okay.
Oh.
My first exposure to Martin Popoff was my book Riff Kills Man, my copy of Riff Kills Man, which when I first acquired it stank of rotten eggs because it was given to me by a customer of mine at the record store that I called Stinky Eggs Man. He always stank of eggs. So that's part one. My book smelled of eggs. And then we have a connection of Martin Popoff to you, collaborators, friends, great Canadian writers. You grew up in Espanola, which, according to No Sleep Till Sudbury, smelled of rotten eggs. Yeah. My copy of Riff Kills Man smelled of rotten eggs. Espanola smelled of rotten eggs. Everything comes back to eggs. The universe is egg-shaped.
Interesting.
I was kind of taken by that one detail in your book about Espanola smelling like eggs.
You know, it's funny because it does. So there's a paper mill there,
Right.
and
Yeah.
so it's a sulfur smell, right?
Right.
So it's funny because when you live there, you become desensitized to it, and so after a while, it's almost like you can smell it, but you can't smell it. But anytime that you say, "Yeah, I grew up in Espanola," people will say, "Oh yeah, the rotten eggs town," or like, "Oh, it stinks." Yeah. Like, and it doesn't matter where you are. I mean, like, I've been in fucking Hamilton, for Christ's sakes, and people say,
Yeah.
"Oh yeah, the rotten eggs place." Like, you can't outrun it.
Meanwhile, in Hamilton, you can
it-
taste the metal on your tongue. You can taste it from all the smelting plants. You know.
Somebody told me about Hamilton once that, you know, if you jog through the downtown for half an hour, it's like smoking 2 packs of cigarettes.
I didn't doubt it. Oh my God! I don't know if he's talking about Espanola here, but our local rock star Max the Axe apparently.
Right.
There we go.
Espanola or Hamilton?
I don't want to know. I hopefully he won't elaborate. But when you were living in Espanola,
we'll make that reveal when me and Mikey set up our own Patreon account. That'll be the bonus section.
Yeah.
We'll find out where all that went down.
Perfect.
I want to get into one thing. I want to segue from Espanola because I imagine it was at home in Espanola when you had this legendary alphabetically mahogany cassette case. Oh! Exactly as I pictured it.
It's like there's a broken piece here.
Let's get a close up here.
And this broken. Yeah.
What's the sticker? What's that say? Rude boy or something?
Yeah. I don't know where that came from. I have no recollection of that. I don't know.
So according to
this
sorry?
is like, I felt like Indiana Jones when I pulled this thing out. It was like
right.
all the dust blew off it. Like, I haven't seen this thing since like forever. It's like an ancient artifact.
Do you
But
have
it's
any way of
awesome.
playing them? Can you play any of that?
Can I play any of what?
The cassettes. Do you have any way of playing them?
Through a Walkman.
Oh wow.
So,
Yeah.
so that's actually, I got to tell you, it's a good segue into a story that I want to tell you about Ron McLean. So
Robert Plant.
His second appearance on the show, he read No Sleep Till Sudbury, and he read the bit about cassettes, and he said, "Brent, I've got 2 cassettes here for you," and they were cassettes. Like, there was no case; it was just the actual cassette itself. So one of them was labeled 1985, and the other one was labeled Ron's Summer Hits or something like that, right? So he gives these 2 cassettes to me, and he says, "Brent, I can't play these. I don't have a cassette player. I have no idea what's on them. If you ever have the occasion to play them, then I'd love to learn what's on them. I know that about your affinity for cassettes, and God bless you. So here you go." So he gave me these cassettes. So then I dug into like my old stuff, and I found my old sports Walkman from high school, my Sony Walkman. And so I'm like, "Oh, this is awesome." So I put batteries in it. It worked. So I listened to these cassettes, and I transcribed all the songs. And it was like what you'd expect, like Sunglasses at Night, Blue Rodeo, all the U2, like all the 80s stuff. And so I sent it back to him, and I said, "Ron, this is what was on the cassettes. I actually found my sports Walkman." And he sent me this huge note saying, "Oh my God, like, I can't believe you took the time to do that. My wife Carrie and I are so touched at this gesture." Like, that's the kind of guy that he is. Like, he is such a sensitive guy. He's a fantastic man. And like, that little gesture, sent him into this huge kind of tizzy of sentimentality. Like, he's an amazing guy. So yeah,
That's awesome.
That's the story.
I love
I
stories
love
like that.
If you see Ron McLean on TV and you see kind of a very professional, stoic guy, he is a super sentimental person and a sweet, sweet guy.
Makes me like him even more now.
You should.
That's awesome.
He's fantastic. Yeah. I was at Iron Maiden in Toronto, was it 2 years ago when they were here? And my phone went off, and I thought, I probably should look at this. And I look at it, and it was McLean. And he said, "You better be at Iron Maiden." So I said,
That's great.
Where else would I be?
Right.
Yeah.
And they said it's
And
fine.
that proves that he read the book.
That's right. Oh, he did. He totally did. But that's the kind of
Yeah.
guy he is. Super sentimental.
Yeah,
And
that's
you
great.
say in the book, and I agree 100%, alphabetized by band and then sorted by release date. 100% agree. Every one of us, we discussed this before the show, we all agree. Now, I'd like to go a little deeper, though, because I imagine you still collect music today, just on different formats.
Oh, totally. So a lot of these cassettes, I stopped buying cassettes in 87, 88. I rebought them in CD, and then now, and then an MP3. But yeah, so like Kiss got me three ways, right? So like vinyl plus cassette plus CD. But yeah, like they're all here, and I don't know how you guys want to do this, but like there's a lot of cool stuff here. I was looking at these earlier, and like I said, like an Indiana Jones kind of like archaeological dig. There's a lot of dust on these.
And is everything still alphabetized as you left it?
Oh, totally. So like here's the top, and this is, I'll show you. I'll take it out. So,
okay, we're gonna do a close up here.
Can you see this?
Accept. Oh my God, you've got all the accept. Oh, now is that beneath AC/DC? What is that, Alice Cooper? So you filed Alice by first name.
Yeah. So that's just, that's how I did it. And this is, keep in mind, I haven't touched these things since like 1988. So, yeah. But
my follow-up question was this.
Sure.
I always agree, chronological by date, but then when a band does something really screwy, like does a 30th anniversary edition of British Steel, where do you file that? Do you file that under 1980, or do you file that under 2010?
Well, the cassettes, I don't know. It's like, here it is.
There it is, yeah.
Do you see
British
that?
Steel. That's exactly like my old Sony.
So that's the thing that, in looking at this collection, I remember thinking, back to my 17-year-old self, like how proud I was of like how perfectly kind of, categorized everything was. And that was the Judas Priest. Can you see that?
Oh,
yeah.
So like,
look at that.
Yeah. So, and there's weird stuff in here. I mean, like there's the best of Judas Priest. There's Unleashed in the East, which is, I don't know is that still available?
Unleashed is still available. Mm-hmm. Remastered with 2 bonus tracks.
Cool.
On CD. Harrison Cobb files anniversary editions under the year they were released. So I guess he would file his anniversary edition of British Steel in 2010. I file mine, and I put the anniversary editions in 1980, but that's just me.
That's the thing. When I was, me and Mike were talking about getting you back on, I said, I'd like to do something with Brent that's just a little out of the ordinary. Then I thought of this chapter in your book, All Former Things Must Pass. And I thought,
right.
Oh, bingo. I'm going to shoot this at Brent. I cannot see how he would not want to do this if he still has it. And I couldn't believe it. You said, yeah, dude, I got it. It's like, pull her out.
It's crazy.
That's
like
awesome.
Things that, I want to show you all of these things, and you guys can have a look. Then. So, like, here is...
Oh, Badlands, the first one.
Can you see that okay?
Yeah.
There's the Cinderella Night songs that you talked about in the book.
Yeah. So,
wow.
The Cult, and if you remember this...
That's a single.
They had these little, like, extended play cassettes.
Yeah.
That were kind of fun. It was like what was it called? Like a single, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Over in the corner, I've got 3 of them from the Sonic Temple era.
What else? This is kind of funny. I found this in here.
It's still sealed.
Guns N' Roses. Still got the wrapping on it. I don't know why. And like a Freley's Comet cassette, but it's got a hole in it in the. I don't know. Like it's like I have no recollection of a lot of this stuff.
The Fraley's Comet, if that had a hole in it, I guess that might be a promo cassette.
I don't know.
Maybe?
I don't know. I have no idea.
What was the story? I remember hearing about the holes that were punctured in the album corners back in the day. That was because something that they were basically not going to be printing one of those albums, and they were going to the discount bin. Now, I don't know if that was right, but
poor
kind
Ace.
of, yeah, poor Ace. But I don't know if there's Mike would probably know more about that than me.
That actually predates my career at the record store.
Because I bought a few records that were, $5.99 back in the day, and they had a hole right in the corner. I thought, well, that's kind of weird. But then I think I was listening or reading something a while ago, and somebody said, yeah, if there's a hole in the corner of the album cover, that means it was basically the record company said no more, put her in the cheapie bins.
Oh,
so
wow.
I realized I had a lot of hole in my records.
Yeah, I've bought a number of records and actually probably cassettes too that had a punch in them that I bought at a cheapie bin. So there might be truth to that.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. So how are we going to do this, Brent? You just want to pull in that case and pull out something random and we'll let it rip? And
all right.
I'm just curious what treasure might be in there.
We talked a lot about this cassette.
Oh, you know what? I wanted to go there. Maybe we should. Okay, you know what? I wanted to ask you about this.
All right.
But I had a setup for it.
Do you want to? Oh. You know what's really funny? Look at this. Can you see this?
Yeah. It's got Lizzie Borden in the shell.
Because that was in here.
Uh-oh.
Where
is there a Lizzie Borden in there with a loudness?
No, there's not.
Oh no, it's gone.
Like I literally, guys, I pulled this out from under my stairs about 2 hours ago, and so I don't know what's what. I'm discovering this for the first time in a long time, so that's kind of bizarre. But I will say, Mike, we've talked about this, right? This was one of the records that I loved to listen to all the way through high school. This spent so much time in my Walkman that it was ridiculous. I have no idea where the cassette is now, though. Isn't that
a shame?
And where's the case for Visual Lies then?
I would say that one of your buddies got in there. Always deflect the blame.
That's it, right? So there's the Lizzie. I don't know if you can see these things.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, we can see it. Yeah.
So there's all kinds of Lizzie stuff in here, but that's kind of the X factor. What did my buddies steal something? Did I steal something from them? I don't know. I don't know if you guys did that. Here's one.
Yes.
Devil.
Yes.
Yeah.
Motley.
With the cassette cover rather than that embossed Devil Star cover that you got on the vinyl version.
That's right. And this is indeed, yes, that's a cassette. So yeah, this spent a lot of time in my Walkman. This is cool, you guys. Look at this.
Oh, nice.
The live EP.
Yeah.
Which to date, you still cannot get that on CD to this day.
This is 1980. So
yep.
That's what the cassette looks like.
Yep.
Mr. Crowley.
Yep.
Bizarre, right?
Deke only just got that one bonus track on there. You said it all. You only just got that last year on one of the new Aussie downloads, didn't you?
Yeah. I don't know. I'm not sure.
He put it on the Blizzard of Oz 40th anniversary just for digital only.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
But the other two tracks on there you cannot get anymore. Unreleased.
Okay, here's something really fun. Are you guys ready for this?
Yeah. Oh yeah, with the probably with Blitzkrieg and.
But look at the distributor.
Bonsai.
Yes.
Is that what that says? Yeah. Bonsai.
So this was released before Metallica signed with Elektra Records.
Wow.
Yeah. So look at how bizarre this is. This is Banzai Record. Yeah.
No, I've never seen that before, ever.
Yeah. I bought this in 1983 in the States when it first came out. And I talk about this in the book. Nobody knew who Metallica was. It was just a bizarre thing. And so I bought it later, too, on Elektra.
Oh, you got both.
So you see the Elektra there, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because it had bonus tracks. But this.
Okay. Bonsai.
Also
Banzai. Yeah.
So yeah. Just, yeah. It's a collector's item, I guess.
Well, it probably is a collector's item. You better make sure your security system's on, because LeDan will probably sneak over.
Well, this doesn't surprise me. Our buddy Brian wants to make you an offer on those cassettes. That doesn't shock me at all. Brian's a cassette junkie. And we've got tons of comments here about the punching. And yeah, they stopped pressing albums. They punch a hole in it. LPs were mutilated when sold to discount stores to prevent dishonored record dealers from returning them to the distributors for full credit. CDs, cassettes, and books.
Cool.
So yeah,
That's good job,
lots of cool information there.
Yeah.
I wanted to talk to you about the loudness thing, but I had a segue into it, and we're at the 1 hour point, so I'm going to do this. I wanted to play some clips from the very first show 1 year ago, and you'll understand why this relates to loudness.
Sure.
But I apologize in advance. We were not very sophisticated a year ago, and here is the proof. Here's a 90-second clip of the very first show 1 year ago. Apologies. All right, let's do this. Let's do this. MZA. Dun, 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 dun. MZA. Dun, 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 dun. Yeah. Cheers to you, Eric Litwiller. You are a god of rock, just so you know. I might be just drunk on fruit punch, but maybe I'm going to get a little emotional here. Eric Litwiller is a fucking solid human being. Who the hell is Frank Thoms? I'll show you my Kiss tattoo. That is my my Paul Stanley rose. Can't remember where I got this. Phenomena is the name of the band. Glenn Hughes. 4 excellent tracks on this one. Kiss of Fire, Still the Night, Phoenix Rising, and Twilight Zone. Just fantastic tracks. Have I had too much fruit punch this evening? I don't know what tomorrow will bring, but may it bring you peace, happiness, health, and I don't know, alcohol, whatever you want.
Wow. That's quite an anthology there.
Yeah, with a shirt change too.
Oh, that was all one show?
Yeah, I did it in spurts. Like I went live for 40 minutes, took a break, went live again. But yeah.
Oh, wow.
But regarding the loudness thing, you heard me playing the little riff there.
MZA.
Thunder in the East was your go-to. Did you ever follow them beyond Thunder in the East?
No.
Really?
And you know, again, I don't. It's a big blur back then. Like I have no idea why I didn't buy the next record. And what was the record before that? It was something nice. Hurricane Eyes.
Hurricane Eyes came later, 87-ish.
Okay.
There was Thunder in the East, Lightning Strikes, and Hurricane Eyes. And Lightning Strikes is the one that had that hit single, Let It Go.
Maybe that's why. Maybe I think because they kind of softened up for the market, right?
Yes.
Yeah, so maybe that could have been it. And actually, that's a good segue into something that really disappointed me.
Uh-oh.
So do you guys remember this?
Icon.
Yeah.
I've heard of it.
I bought the first one. Was that Scene of the Crime? The first
No.
album?
See, that's what I'm talking about. I wanted to smash this cassette on the floor. I hated this so much.
Yeah, I had that one. I bought it on vinyl and got hosed.
It's terrible, right? So the first record was fantastic. It was so good. I loved it so much. And the second one sucked. It was sold out. There was like synthesizers all over it, and I really regretted buying it. So maybe, you know, it was like once bitten, twice shy. You know, with loudness, I kind of got a scent of the synthesizers and didn't buy it.
Yeah, I get
Well,
you.
you're probably like probably. I mean, we're close to the same age, Brent. But I know back in the mid '80s to late '80s, especially, it was hard at times to keep up because you had your major bands putting out stuff, and then you have your second and maybe even third tier bands putting out stuff. And if you liked the second tier band's first album, you'd try, but sometimes, you know, you'd be going after the Maiden or the AC/DC or the Priest. was like a pecking order almost. And then you'd get that second tier record and go, oh, shame, took my money, you know. So I think that had a lot to do with me so much. I got ripped off on Icon. What was the other band that I got hosed on back then?
Raven.
Yeah, Raven. What was it? Stay Hard.
Yes.
Was that was their
the pack is back. And you know, I've had a conversation about this with people that know John Gallagher, and he is not happy apparently with the fact that I put that in the book, because I loved All for One, and it's in here somewhere. Yeah. It's a fantastic record, right? And I listened to it. Here it is, right here. So I bought this when I bought the Metallica Kill 'Em All. So at the same time, so it's broken. 83, bought this, loved it. And then, you know, I was a huge fan, and I bought their next record, and it wasn't the same at all. And it was, I was disappointed by that. And I commented on that in the book, that I wanted to actually like stamp on it on my bedroom floor, that I was so angry. And apparently he was not pleased about that, John Gallagher. I talked to somebody who told me that I think he read the book and you know, wasn't happy about it. But I don't know. Like that happened in the 80s a lot, right? Because we were so into this music and it meant everything to us, and we wanted it to kind of follow in the same direction. But bands, you know, didn't necessarily want to do that. They wanted to be famous. They wanted to make money. And that was something that was beyond me at the time. So,
yeah, I bought All for One, and I think it was Live at the Inferno.
Yes, I have
and one older one that came out in the early 80s. Rock Till You Drop was out.
Yes, that's what it was.
Yeah, and those were good. And then a buddy at school bought their first major label release.
The package.
Yeah, and I took it home and dubbed it on tape. I couldn't even part my allowance on that one.
Well, it was a pretty radical departure. That one was.
Yeah. But a lot of bands got caught in that game of you know, changing it up a little too much tweaking. I mean, one band, I know you showed it in the A's, that I really like the debut, and I still do, is Sign In Please by Autograph. Yeah. I love that record, man. Yeah. Steve Plunkett wrote a bunch of gems, and then my buddy T-Bone went and bought the second one with Blondes and whatever the car, and I was like, it's like I'm not feeling it, man. And that was my exit point out of Autograph, you know.
Did you hear Steve Lynch on No Sleep Till Sudbury explain how they got the beat? So they used a shotgun to get that snare sound.
Yeah, that's right.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah,
very crazy.
That is wild.
He's absolutely. Yeah.
Well, it's a tie game now, according to the shouting I just heard from the other room. It's a tie game.
But yeah, that was. But yeah, I thought that debut record, I can still put it on vinyl today, and think it's a great. I mean, you take off Churn Up the Radio.
Love that song.
A lot of other solid tracks on there too. You know, Send Her to Me. You know, Cloud 9. Like Plunkett really hit it out of the park on that one, but
he did.
Who knows what went on there with those guys? But yeah, that was a good album. So yeah, my eye caught that one when you showed it. I thought, yeah, Autograph, cool. So yeah, it's too bad about what went down with Kenny Richards there, but
really tragic.
That is like crazy, but good stuff. So pull out something else out of there, if you don't mind.
If you don't, Deke shouting orders.
Yeah.
No, this is great. Okay, how about this?
Okay, I wanted to ask you about Queensryche.
I love early Queensryche.
Okay, in your book, you talk about buying that first EP.
Yeah.
$22. Was it an import or like was that an original pressing on that indie label or what?
You know what happened was that, and this is really bad, but I'm going to say it anyway because I paid the price for it. So in Espanola, this is what, 84, I want to say. There was one record store in Espanola, and it was called Wally's Music. And so what Wally used to do is he would bring in Espanola, as you know, in T-Bay Deek, like it's kind of it's a bit of a trek, right? Mm-hmm. So to get product up there costs money. So we paid that money back. So in this one record store in town, there would be, albums displayed on the wall, and they would have stickers on them, and the sticker would say, $18.99 on a record.
Yeah.
But above that, it would say $24.99 scratched out in pen, right? So it was like you're getting a deal, and I was like, "Oh, I'm getting a huge deal. I better buy that." Meanwhile, in Sudbury, the bloody record was like $7.99. But it was just like a little trick that he did. So the Queensryche thing was the same thing. But the Queensryche record, I visualize that in my mind. I remember that was in the top corner, and I looked at it, and I thought it's like a weird font, and the colors are weird. It's like yellow and purple, and it looked a little bit scary. And they completely like suckered me, right? I fell for it. I was like, oh, it seems like it's kind of like very mysterious and scary. And I pulled it down, and I said to the guy, I said, what kind of music is this? And he said, oh, it's like heavy metal. And I said, okay, I wanted that. And I put it down, and I paid for it. And I loved it. I bought the cassette, and that's it, actually. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Queensryche, so the first, I want to say 3 records. So the EP is fantastic. The Warning is great, I think. Rage for Order, they changed a lot, but I actually really like that. A lot of people like Mind Crime. I'm not a massive fan. I think it's okay. And then after that, they got maybe, away from me a little bit.
I really hope our buddy Harrison here is watching from Australia, because we just got him to listen to Mind Crime a few weeks ago, and he was not impressed. Not impressed.
That's a concept. It's a concept record.
Yeah. And he wasn't interested in all the gobbledygook in between the songs.
Well, that's it. I mean, those guys were very intellectual forward, right? Yeah. It was and bless them for it. I mean, that's just what they did. They were super talented guys. They were almost like prog rock. They were heavy prog, really.
Yeah.
They never made the same release twice back then. They were always pushing. Like, they never made, oh, this sounds like sides 3 and 4 to The Warning, and Rage for Order didn't sound anything at all like the. I remember back in high school, and speaking of Rage for Order came out, it was right around the time when Vince Neil got in that accident and messed up Hanoi Rocks Forever and all that. And a lot of guys I remember in my drafting class, they were hardcore Crew guys. I was too, but I like Queensryche. They didn't. There was like that. It was like Queensryche sucks. So I used to always tell them, Queensryche will outlast the Crew. They'll be selling more records than the Crew. And they basically almost want to beat me. But the best was in the early 90s when Motley Crue was like just rightly decimated. I bumped into one of the guys in a local bar here who I probably hadn't seen since like the mid 80s. And I said, hey, Queensryche has been doing all right in the 90s, eh? And he just went, mother trucker. So I had a little bit of payback there. Even now, I wasn't really following Queensryche much myself at that point, but it was just kind of fun to jab it. But yeah, it was funny. It just goes to show you, hey, you can just have, just had fun with it. But they were a different band. Like Operation Mindcrime, I think, is a good record. I really like The Warning. That one I found on vinyl a year ago, and I didn't have a problem paying $20 for it because it used, and because that's. But that could be what I think is a great Queensryche record. Somebody else would be going, "It's Empire." So. Well,
the thing for me is that, and this is the case with a lot of these bands, is that if you stumble upon a band, and back then, guys, we were like 14. Right.
Mm-hmm.
So I was always looking for like my band music that was written for me. And Queensryche at that time was for me. So Queen of the Reich, Knight Rider, all that stuff. I was like, okay, this is like my stuff. So you formed this kind of bond with the band, and that meant that when their next record came out, you were going to be a supporter, and that was very important. So what they gave you in exchange was very important. So like. For me, The Warning was like, okay, like this is really cool. I can see the evolution here, right? And I gave them that kind of liberty. I gave them that luxury. And sometimes you don't do that with bands. Like people just listen casually, like, it's shitty. Like, I don't really like it. It's not for me.
Mm-hmm.
But you develop a personal kind of connection, a personal affinity for these bands, and you watch them grow. And that can work with them, or that can work against them.
Yeah.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So, and unfortunately, with bands like Raven and Queensryche and all the rest of them, you kind of watch their lifestyle or their life cycle progress. Like with Queensryche, it's like, okay, they're just like a kind of a nothing band, but I think they have potential. With the Warning, yes, they're showing me this is it. With Rage Warrior, like, holy shit, these guys are crazy. And then it kind of got to be a bit too much for me. But that's how I envision all of this stuff. It's not just casual listening. It's not like, I like that or I don't like that. I made an emotional investment in this stuff.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of how I see this. And that's how I see this entire cassette collection. You know, I watch these bands come from, and Metallica is a great example. I talk to people about this all the time, and I sound like an asshole because when I bought that first record, people say, Metallica, what the fuck is that? It sounds like garbage. Like, it's terrible. And then now people are like, Until It Sleeps is such a special song. It was playing at my wedding. I'm like, fuck. It was in 1983. And I wore the Metallica t-shirt to high school and people ridiculed me. Like, it's just, you know, I don't know. It's a weird thing. That's why this thing is very important to me. That's probably why I kept it all these years.
I'm glad you did, because I'm having a blast looking at what you had in there. Like, you had a lot more Accept than I had, that's for sure.
So just
a serious Accept collection.
Love them. And Kaizoku Band, is that available still?
Sorry?
No,
Kaizoku
it's not.
Band.
I haven't seen it for years.
Close up on that. Oh, that one.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's long out of print.
Love it.
Yeah, you got a little bit of money sitting there now, pal.
Ah, yes.
Midnight High. What is that?
Whoa.
See, the logo is different. Everything.
Yep, that's a whole different logo.
Yeah.
Yeah, wow.
I love how it says Program 1 and Program 2, not Side 1 and Side 2.
Yeah.
Maybe a holdover from the 8-track era when it was programs 1 through 4. I don't know.
That's right. Yeah.
So Ryan has a question for you.
Oh, sure.
Was there a rock station you could listen to in Espanola back in the 80s?
That's a good question. I don't think so. I think that, there wasn't even one in Sudbury, really. There was it was called CKNS in Espanola, but it wasn't really rock. It was just what they tried to do was kind of like capture like as much popular music as they could, right? So it was just like, I remember Olivia Newton-John and like stuff like that, or Billy Squire. But there certainly wasn't like any heavy metal or real kind of rock on the radio at all during that time. Like none, not even.
Sounds like Thunder Bay, totally. Back in the 80s, the only rock we had was Rockline on the radio on Monday nights. I would tape that. I'd actually stay up and go to school the next day just listening to it, because some of that stuff I would find out the scoop instead of waiting around for the magazines to hit the print shop. I mean, one of them was actually when Coverdale went on there for the 87 record and announced this whole new lineup. And I'm like, where the freak did Sykes go?
Yeah.
And he didn't even bring him up at all at the time. And I'm like, what?
Yeah.
So, yeah,
There's a guy I've been trying to get on the podcast, but he's not. I can't reel him in.
Sykes?
Coverdale.
Sykes?
No, Coverdale.
Sykes? Coverdale.
Oh, I thought you said Sykes. I was like, what?
I'm going to start going after John Sykes. He just released a new record, right?
Or he has one coming.
Yeah.
He released a couple of videos on New Year's Day, and then he's gone silent again. It's like, come on, man.
I'm going to track him down and get him on the show.
One thing I like about David Coverdale is he seems really interactive on Twitter. Maybe you got to start tweeting him more with Whitesnake facts. Seems to work for other people.
He also may have read that part, about the Whitesnake, right?
Oh yeah,
the Aquanet stuff. But that's how I felt. I mean, like Slide It In was just a fantastic record, and I think that for me that was their apex. And then 1987, and I get now why he did that. but I still don't agree with it. I mean, these guys have to make money, and he's got all sorts of, and I found out through other people about things that he's done that he needs money to pay for. And that's why these guys make these decisions that they do. That's why they sell out to the market. He wanted to break big in America, and that's why 1987 looks and sounds the way that it does. And it doesn't sound anything like Slide It In, nor does it look that way. So for a fan, that was difficult to swallow when you're 16 years old and you want to hear another Slide It In. For me, that's why AC/DC was so fantastic, because it was just like, you get the same thing every record. It's like, yes.
Well, the thing that probably upset you most about Coverdale switching gears from Slide It Into the 87 record was you couldn't really play your drinking game with the 87 record.
No. Oh, that was mental. Like, that stuff was crazy. I would, like, back in high school, we did that. You guys read that part.
Yeah.
We actually did that. Like,
every time he says love, right?
It was like, you take a drink. And so at the end of side one,
you're wasted.
Who's going to turn the cassette over? Not me, man.
And then you get nailed with Guilty of Love right off the bat on side two.
And how many times does he repeat it in the song?
I know. It was like, I give up. I'm done.
So for those of you got to read No Sleep Till Sudbury. Brent used to play a drinking game with his buddies where they would take a drink every time David Coverdale said the word love on the Slide It In album. So go listen to your Slide It In album and then let your imagination do the rest. Lana from Hawaii is saying hello. Hello, Lana. Hope you can enjoy some of our Canadianisms tonight.
So, and then one tape you showed earlier was Motley Crue. Now, what's your trajectory on them from the 80s as they got, into the 90s, and then it all kind of fell apart? Like, me and Mikey, we have our own theories about Nikki Sixx.
Well, you do. Specifically, it's you.
Yeah, so I do. But I kind of like to hear your spin, and then I'll tell you my spin on the Crue.
So, first record, loved. That's for Love, fantastic. Punk, raw, dirty record, loved it. The production was fantastic. The second record, I also thought the production was fantastic. The thing that stuck with me about that album was the guitar tone that they were able to achieve on that album. I thought that was just amazing. And I was taken, obviously, I think I was 14 or 15. I was taken with the fire and the blood and the leather and all the rest of it, like all the visual. But then, I kind of felt like they dipped too deeply into that well of the visual, where Nikki Sixx started dressing up in polka dot, outfits and striped black and white striped tights and stuff like that. And I just thought it was too much. And the music couldn't really back it up. For me, it was like all kind of recycled Aerosmith riffs. I felt like they were really reaching on that record. And I just thought it was, Home Sweet Home. I mean, I didn't really know what to make of it after hearing, Looks That Kill and Too Fast, or 10 Seconds to Love and the stuff from Show to the Devil. And I remember buying that record and playing it in my basement, and I just gave up on it. I thought, like, no, I'm out. Motley Crue, I'm out. And Girls, Girls, Girls came out. I listened to it, didn't like it, and then I was done. Which was sad, because I love Show.
Wow.
I loved.
I think the thing that struck me when you were talking to your Frankie Goes to Hollywood chapter is how you managed to dissect Nikki Sixx's plan for world domination. And you're talking about how he calculated this metal album to grab the attention of the masses, and I was really fascinated by it. It forced me to reevaluate my own views on Motley Crue's history.
I'm glad, Mike, but do you agree with that? Because in essence, I think that's what happened, really.
Well, this leads us to Deke's theory, which we call the Nikki Sixx book of following trends.
See, I'm with you on the first record, and then the second record came out in, what was that, 83?
Yeah.
So I was just turning 16. So I mean, they were doing what Kiss wasn't doing anymore.
Right.
The makeup, you open up the gatefold, the fire pictures and everything, and then I'm reading the lyrics, like Nikki Sixx writing stuff like, in goes the knife, out goes his life. I'm like, what?
Yeah,
well, okay, these guys mean business. And then, they went through that whole crazy Vince thing, and then Theater Pain comes out, and then I'm thinking, okay, so 2 years ago, the devil was the big thing, Number of the Beast at the time. It was just like the whole devil worshipping thing, PMRC, and then the crew goes into Theater Pain. That's when the music's starting to get a little glammy. Nikki Sixx, as you pointed out, starting to dress glam. All of a sudden, a lot of bands were wearing makeup, right? And then all of a sudden, they decide to go street look on the Girls record, and it's like, okay, so now the Guns N' Roses is coming out, and they're more street. So here's the opening act of the Girls, Girls, Girls tour. Motley Crue's trying to say, hey, we're tough, we're badasses too. And then, so I always found that Nikki Sixx, he had an eye for following trends. I know I've mentioned this on Mike's blog, and I got torched by a couple of guys in Europe about that. But it's like, just to me, it just seemed like he wasn't a trend setter. I mean, they did big business in the 80s. I would never knock them. Me and T-Bone seen the Dr. Feelgood tour, and it was a great live show. I mean, they brought it, but to me, it was just like, I don't know, like it just seemed, even when they went through the whole Karabi thing, they grunged out a bit, as much as I love that record. And then Vince comes back and they do the Generation Swine. And it's almost like they were following that trend in the late 90s of what was going on. And it's like, dudes, just stick to what you were doing, I get it. You want to push the envelope, but to me, you're just following what other bands are doing better than you, So that was just my deal with Nikki Sixx.
Nikki Sixx,
I guess you won't answer my messenger message now, wanting him to come on the LeBrain train.
Nikki is not answering our calls.
That's a joke. I never did that.
Well, you know what? I don't think that he. I don't think that he would deny that, in 10 years. Nikki Sixx Frank Ferrano was a businessman, right?
Yeah, totally.
So he saw the landscape, and here's what he did. So he said, okay, so I want to get famous. I don't care about music. I can't play, because he couldn't.
He stole his first instrument without knowing how to play it.
He did, but he did not know how to play. Tom Warman said he did not know how to play the bass. Yeah. Well, he said, I want to be famous. I love David Bowie. I love music. So, okay, so what do? I'm going to get this hotshot drummer who's 19 years old. He breaks cymbals with sticks, which he did, Tommy Lee. Mm-hmm. He's flash. He looks good, right? And then I'm going to get a guitar player who is a veteran, and he was from Whitehorse, Bob Deal, Mick Mars. So he's going to be kind of the ballast of the group. He's the, in essence, the best musician. He can carry us, right? And then I'm going to get this, kind of, good-looking singer who can't sing worth a fuck, right? He can do a great Robin Zander, according to Tommy Lee, but that's about it. And so I'm going to put this thing out there and see if, that kind of garners success. And it did, because of the aspect. I mean, the songs were good, but at the same time, the whole thing, there's a lot of calculation in terms of, how do I get famous? Not like the kind of integrity of the songwriting. And I know that wasn't like hair metal's objective, in essence. I know that in the 80s. But Nikki Sixx was an architect. He built a band to get famous. Yeah. And there's no denying that. He would not deny that if you put that to him. I don't believe. No,
and I mean, and good on him. I mean, he's still huge with whatever he does on Twitter, and everybody has a huge interest on him. Nah, Dar, you're lying. But it's just funny to see just to me, I don't know, but I mean, no denying. I mean, like I said, for the longest time, they were filling a void that Kiss had stopped doing. Yeah. And they filled it. Even Wasp, you can say what you want about them, but on their first album, I bought that because they were also filling a void that Kiss wasn't doing, right? Yeah. So I was kind of still trying to fill that gap of, hey, man, I kind of like that makeup kind of stuff and Fire and Skull stuff. And yes. But, and like I said, the crew always brought the A game to the live show, so, it's...
Some of them did.
Yeah. Some of them did, but I mean, when I say that, I'm talking back to 30 years ago when I last saw the Crew, which is probably how I'd want to remember it.
Yeah.
But, you know.
See, I would say Tommy Lee always brought his A game.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mick Mars always brought his A game.
100%.
In terms of like no for no playing, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I would, as evidence, I would watch the US 83 or the US 83 or whatever it's called, the US Festival. Have you watched that clip?
Oh, yeah.
So Lee, solid. Mars, solid. Nicky's kind of like in the background as he always was, right? Like doing his thing and mugging and stuff. Vince, awful.
Awful. Yeah.
Like awful. Like embarrassingly awful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Apparently, after that show, Tommy Lee cried.
Oh yeah, I think you mentioned this. Did you mention this in the book?
Backstage, said, that's it. We fucked it up. It's over. Like I put all this effort into this band. It's over. Because Vince Neil did not hit a note. You know,
No.
like it was terrible. If you listen to him singing, he was so horrible that Tommy Lee cried after and was ready to leave the band.
You know, they're fortunate that didn't happen during the YouTube era, because that really could have been the end of the band if it had happened during the YouTube era.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
You know, so there's an idea right there. Brent just brought up the US Festival. I think we should pick at some of those bands that were on the heavy metal day. I think the
Quiet
Crew.
Riot.
Now, what about Quiet Riot? Now, they're a band that benefited from the US Festival that day.
There you go.
Boom.
Ah, yes. The original. That is the
83.
cassette.
1983. Isn't that crazy?
Now, was that your only Quiet Riot, or did you follow them through? That one and done?
Yeah, that was it. Mama We're All Crazy Now is good. And I remember watching those things on like Friday night videos. Do you guys remember that show?
Yeah.
Yep.
But I didn't want to buy the whole record because I knew it was going to be shit.
It was literally them repeating the first album.
Yeah.
You know, just
Totally.
a flat carbon copy repeat. Here's the Slade cover.
Like exactly. Like right down to covering the same band for your lead off single, right?
Now, I guess a lot of that was down to Spencer Proffer and Pasha.
Maybe.
But still, the impression was this band has just put out a second record and it's not as good as the first record. And then the third record, you know, you talk about bands that lose people. That third record was so synthy that I was like, this is crap.
Yeah.
That's why I laughed.
Sit in a room with those bands and their managers and you know record company executives and say or listen to the conversations they had. So okay guys, so here's the vision, right? If we add synthesizer, no, we can't do that because we're gonna sell it. No, but you want to make money, right? Yeah, we do. So you know, it was like every fucking band went through that, like they really did.
And then when it backfires, they blame managers, record labels, everything in
Producers,
the world but
everybody.
themselves.
Totally.
You know, sometimes they'll say, well, we shouldn't have listened to these people, but, you know.
Yeah. I mean,
that record
I'm like
goes, that record's there forever. That is a forever record.
That's your legacy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
100%. So, you know, Quiet Riot 3, it's out there. It's forever. But, you know, even so, there's people that hop on the train at that time, and that's their favorite record. I get comments from them all the time.
and that's very true. I mean, it depends on like what your entry point into that act is. I mean, I was telling Mike, I recently just got the 2 Sabbath Dio reissues on vinyl, Heaven and Hell and Mob Rules.
Yeah.
And that is my entry point into Sabbath was Mob Rules. And when it first came out, and you know what? I like those 2 Dio albums better than the Ozzy Sabbath.
Oh,
I like Ozzy Sabbath. Don't get me wrong, folks. Okay, like don't start hating me. But it's just like it's just where my head was at the time because Sabbath with Dio was a whole different tempo.
totally.
I mean, you listen to those songs and they're just driving metal tunes. Whereas Ozzy, it's like, oh yeah, Lord, man, you know, like a sludgy, and I like that too. But I just got into the whole Ozzy solo and Dio Sabbath thing, and I just love those 2 Dio records. I'm probably in the minority, but I think there's more people in the minority than you would think there are when it comes to the Dio Sabbath. So,
yeah, I like Children of the Sea. I liked Voodoo a lot. Neon Nights.
Sign of the Southern Cross.
Oh yeah, it was good. It was good stuff.
Yeah.
I like
Yeah.
So that's for me. So yeah, you could see somebody saying, "Hey man, I really like Quiet Riot 3," and the three of us would be going, "What?"
Yeah.
But if that's where your entry point is to the band and you think it's a good record, more power to you. We'll still think it sucks at the end of the day, but that's okay.
You know what? I think it's important to try to see other people's perspectives all the time, right? Like, so if somebody says, I love this record, I'm not going to start stomping on them and saying it's bullshit or you're dumb and all that stuff. I mean, that's people's perspectives, and this is how it is. So I don't know. My opinion's my opinion, and yours is yours.
But it makes for a great conversation. It makes for great conversation.
I made a mistake. I literally pooped all over somebody's opinion on Quiet Riot 3. My review of it was literally just a picture of a piece of poop.
Well, but that's your opinion.
Yeah. It wasn't well received by some. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. I wanted to ask you about a band that you talk about a lot in the book, and you have the cassette right there, Night Songs. Yes. I think when I read, man, I smiled ear to ear when I read what you had to say about Tommy Kiefer. And I'm curious if you heard his last solo record, Rise, because Deke and I both loved Rise. We thought it was great. And to me, it's like, that's the follow-up album to Heartbreak Station, was that Tommy Kiefer album. You even said in your book that Tommy Kiefer is Cinderella.
He, like, undisputedly in my mind is.
Yeah.
And, what I wanted to convey is that Tommy Kiefer had a kind of deeper idea into what the Rolling Stones were, what Bad Company was, what, the Faces, like all that stuff, right? He kind of felt that stuff. He went beyond the Poisons and the Cinderellas and the Bullet Boys and all those bands. I thought he was fantastic, and he was Cinderella, basically. I mean, look at, like, he sang, he played not only guitar, he played lead guitar, he played piano, he played saxophone, saxophone, and like not just a couple notes. The motherfucker played it all. He really did, right?
And if you hear that new solo album that he did, it's just the next Cinderella to me.
It's a very good record.
That solo record proves your point.
And it was funny because when I read that, like, serendipitously, like those solo albums hadn't come out yet.
Yeah, and you wrote it before the solo albums came out.
I was rooting for him. I'll tell you a funny story about him in a second, but I was rooting for him to kind of get away from Cinderella because, like, while I love Night Songs and I love the first two records, Long Cold Winter being the second one, I wanted him to leave Cinderella and really fulfill his legacy of being like a Steven Tyler, Mick Jagger-ish kind of musician, Keith Richards-ish, like, because I kind of felt like he could, right? Whereas a lot of these hair bands couldn't. But I felt like Tom Kiefer had this special ability to bridge that kind of distance. And so the book came out, and then his solo record came out, I think 2 years after that. And everybody was like, oh, wow, look at him doing the blues and all that stuff. And I saw him live, and I got a backstage pass from his team, and I talked to him, and I said, hey, I put a copy of my book on your tour bus. And he was just like, oh, okay, great. And I think what happened was he read it, but he read the stuff that I said about Cinderella, and he wasn't very happy about it. And then he was very friendly to me and everything, but like I don't think he appreciated my kind of interpretation of what he should have done and all the rest of it.
Sure.
But he's a fantastic, he gets it, man. Like, Tom Kiefer gets it. And I fully support that guy, and I think he's fantastic.
But that's like you said, that's like your opinion of what Tom Kiefer's doing in the book. So it's either, I mean, it's for everybody to see, but that's how you're feeling about the guy. And if I can add to your story, Brent, I just know even with Night Songs, when Shake Me first dropped, I mean, he was doing Steve Tyler better than Steve Tyler was doing in that video with the scarves. And that sold me. Oof. It's like, this guy's like Aerosmith. This guy's like Tyler, man.
Yeah.
And plus, the guy throws him the guitar during the solo and it starts blowing lead, and it's like, what? I got to get this. So good.
I felt like somebody grabbed me by the shirt and lifted me off the ground when I watched that video for the first time. Like that was my Steven Tyler, and that was my Aerosmith.
Yeah, totally.
I almost pissed my pants watching that bloody video. Like I couldn't believe it. I sat there transfixed. Honestly, it was unbelievable to me. Mm-hmm. It was I was so excited. Like it was a fantastic thing. And that was one of the highlights, I think, of, you think about this, all the cassettes and stuff like that, and the excitement that you got out of that time. Like that was one of the kind of apex times for me is experiencing Cinderella for the very first time.
Yeah,
I like how you describe in your book the guitar over the shoulder trick. Oh, incidentally, it's Jeff LeBar's birthday from Cinderella today. Happy birthday, Jeff LeBar.
Happy birthday. That's awesome.
There you go. But yeah, I agree with you. Like Kiefer was here about 4 years ago at an outdoor festival. The Cult was headlining, and he was just below them. And when he came out and opened with Once Around the Ride, I was in. Yep. I mean, that's just like, boom, that's 86 calling to me. And then he did this crazy mashup of Purple Rain and Little Help from My Friends. It was just like a total mind blower. It was like, you say it out loud and you go, really? But how he pulled it off was so good, and is such a great set. And I mean, 4 songs in and he's playing Shake Me. So it goes to show you the depth of his catalog, he still had other hits to play, but that Shake Me to me is one of their biggest hits. And there he is, just throwing it right at the front of the show. Boom, here it is. And it's like,
that show that I saw him at was a small club, and you can't, hide, deficiencies in performance at a place like that. And he delivered.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Like, right in front of our faces. He was gritty, he was organic, he was raw, like he was good, man. He was really good.
I saw him on the Heartbreak Station tour in Kitchener, and the unfortunate thing is that rock was kind of on a decline at that point. It was them and Slaughter, and they were having trouble selling out. And I think it was London and Kitchener. They ended up combining the 2 shows together, canceling one and moving everybody from London to Kitchener, which is unfortunate.
91.
But they were awesome. Yeah, 91. They were awesome. And I was worried at first because Slaughter were so good as an opening act. I thought, man, how are Cinderella going to follow this? But they sure did. And they were great on that tour. And I know you have an appreciation of that Heartbreak Station album in the book as well. But
I do. Yep.
I really do feel they were a band that never got the due credit. They did have more depth, and as you say, and I didn't know that Kiefer played lead guitar at the time. I figured it was LeBar doing the lead while Kiefer sang, but no, it was Kiefer.
No,
in the Shake Me video, they played that second part of the solo together. So almost the way that Rat did. Remember, they would, like, in Round and Round, they play whatever the second part of the lead is. They played it together, and he was just so technically proficient. Like, fuck, oh yeah.
I liked in music videos back then when the 2 guitar players, when they came together to play the lead solo together, their shoulders would, they'd come together like this and play shoulder to shoulder.
Like that.
Yeah, so funny, so contrived, but cool at the same time.
Like like I said in the book, the cheesiness is the best part, right? It really is. I mean, like it's embarrassing sometimes, and it's kind of gross, but like, god damn it, do we enjoy it, right?
And here we are, like 30 years later talking about it still, right? It's like therapy. It's like therapy for all 3 of us right now.
Right.
We're getting it out.
For me personally, a good stage act with a lot of cool stage moves, to me, that's the equivalent of dance. Rock and roll dance. Yeah. That's the way I look at it. Like Steven Tyler, Joe Perry, they dance.
Yeah.
That's one band I wish I would have caught Cinderella, even like back when they were Cinderella, back in the late 80s, early 90s. Like Mike, I remember me and my buddies, we went down to Alpine Valley in Wisconsin to see Guns N' Roses on the first night of their Use Your Illusion tour, which was like May of 91. And we were there, and we were going into the ticket gate. They had a poster for David Lee Roth, Cinderella, and Extreme about 2 months later.
Wow.
We're like, whoa, we're coming back. And we got tickets, and they canceled it. No,
Oh,
lack of tickets.
That's
Couldn't believe it. Yeah, so it was like, dang. So, yeah, that was a sign of the times for sure. So, especially a real kick to Roth, that's for sure.
A lot of great heavy bands had bad timing coming out around 90, 91. I think there was a taste of the change that was coming, the sea change in rock. You know, you could see certain bands starting to have trouble selling out arenas.
yeah.
Mhm.
It was weird. Like, you had Kiss doing a 4-band tour in 1990 with like Winger and I think Cinderella and Slaughter, I think, was the 4-band Kiss bill, and they were still struggling.
Yeah.
That wasn't a good sign.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I was reading in one of the books that Kiss books that my daughter got me for Christmas, and the promoters, when Hot in the Shade came out, they were only gonna book Kiss into theaters.
Yeah.
They didn't even want to touch them in arenas. And then Forever came out, and so then the promoter said, "Well, okay, but you know what? You need some of these young bands that are selling records to help you sell tickets." So that's why they got Slaughter. And I'm sure to this day, Gene Simmons and Paul Stanley would never admit they had to go do that, but it totally makes sense
Oh God.
that they had to get the young bands like Slaughter that were selling 2 million records to Kiss's Gold.
They know that. Like they know that we know that they know that.
Yeah, but they would never admit it.
But they can't. They never say it.
No. Well, yeah. I just wish they would. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, I remember at the time, they didn't start the Hot in the Shade tour until well into... the album came out in 89. Year. They didn't do tour until 90. And I remember Paul saying things like, well, we want to make sure we give fans 100% and, you know, the best value for the money. And it's like, that's not the answer.
No.
But at the time, we bought it.
Yeah, well, we didn't have a choice, right?
No. But, yeah, it just goes to show you how, like, it was the tide churning going into the 90s just changed everything. I was watching an interview with George Lynch the other day, and he said the problem for him was when Dokken disbanded and he formed Lynch Mob. It was right on the cusp of everything changing. So he said when they put out Wicked Sensation, nobody really cared anymore, because he said it was like they were a year too late to try and move their sound forward, because he said nobody even really wanted to know. It was a really interesting interview with him because he was quite candid. He said we were kind of screwed at the crossroads for everything with that band. Yeah. You know, so it's like, well, yeah, there you go. You know, so at least he can admit it now.
Did you guys ever hear that story about how Dokken got signed?
Don't recall.
It's a good story. So George Lynch was like the shit at the time in LA. He was the player, right? And people knew about Eddie Van Halen. He was just coming up. So the story goes that Dokken was opening for Van Halen. So Kiss went down. So Simmons and Stanley went down to the Starwood and watched, because they heard about this guy George Lynch, and they might sign the band because the songs were decent. So they went and watched Lynch play, and they listened to the songs, and they were like, okay, we got to talk to this guy. So Simmons went backstage and talked to George Lynch and Don Dokken and said, guys, like, we love you. We want to help you, get a record deal. This is before either band was signed. And, we're going to go back and just watch this other band. Probably. I don't even know who they are. They're like, and something. But like, we are so interested in you, right? Like, great show. We'll be in touch. Awesome. We're going to help you. So they leave, and then they watch Van Halen, and they're like, fucking forget all about Dokken. It's all about Van Halen. And that's how the Van Halen thing started.
Wow.
And
I didn't know that.
George and Dokken were this close, to getting, I mean, they would eventually get signed, but it took them 2 more years.
Yeah.
Isn't that funny?
That's crazy. I didn't know that.
Yeah. It's amazing what an hour could do.
Yeah.
Yes.
Go out there and say, nah, we're gonna go with these guys. Like, frick, man. That I never even heard that before. That's crazy.
Didn't know.
Yeah.
Did not know. No, that's goes to show.
Do you have any Dokken in that tape case?
Speaking of,
actually.
Oh, nice.
Where is it? There it is. Look at this.
Wow. Boom. Breaking the chains.
And
nice.
Now there's an album cover.
Yeah. No kidding.
Yeah.
How are you doing for time, Brent? We're getting close to 9 here.
I'm good. I guess we should wrap up, though, right?
Well, yeah, that's
whatever you want, man.
all right. Let's talk one more time about the contest.
Sure.
If you can figure out the answer to the question, you can fill out the form on my website and win some CDs if you can figure out the answer to the question. So hopefully we can do that. That's we wanted to know the tagline on Brent's podcast. His excellent No Sleep Till Sudbury podcast, which you should all check out. I did want to ask you a question before we let you go
Sure.
about your buddy, Uncle Ricky.
Uncle Ricky.
Did you see that announcement about the Triumph Allied Forces box set that's coming out?
Yes.
Do you have any inside knowledge, or are you just, no, you were blindsided just like us, eh?
Yeah.
Deke's waving frantically.
The last time I talked to Rick was about a month ago, and we didn't talk about that. I didn't even know. I had no idea.
Well,
Yeah.
I'm going to be wanting that box set. That looks really, really sweet. Looks like it could be the crown jewel of anybody's Triumph collection.
Yeah. One thing that I'll tell you about Rick, the last time I was there, I don't know if I told you guys this before, but Rick is he's a funny dude. He's always got stories, right? So when we recorded the Christmas episode this last year, we were sitting around before we started, and he said, "Do you know about Christopher Walken, Brent?" And I said, "Yeah." And he said, I'm turning into Christopher Walken." And I said, "What do you mean?" And so he says, Christopher Walken has a fax machine, and that's how you get a hold of Christopher Walken. And I said, "Really?" And he goes, "Yeah, he's like, if you want to get him, he doesn't have a cell phone. He doesn't have the internet. He doesn't have, a computer. He has a fax machine. And his agent faxes him requests, if people want to do interviews with him." And I said, "Really?" And he goes, "Yeah." And he goes, I'm turning into him, I'm sick of it. Fuck, man, really? Like,
So if you want to get in touch with Rick, you're going to have to fax him. That's
not true. Because I was talking to one of my buddies who's writing a book about, it's actually a really good idea. His name is Sean Brett from Sudbury, and it's about like your recollections of your first guitar, if you're a guitar player, because it's special, right? So your very first guitar, whether you were 12 or 29 or whatever it was. And so he went around and he spoke to musicians, and he reached out through Blair Packham to Rick Emmett, and Rick Emmett was like, "Yeah, absolutely. Like, I'd love to be a part of this." So, he's just kind of, exaggerating, whatever. But I always thought that was really funny, because whenever I think of, Christopher Walken, I always think of Rick saying, "Done with everything right now."
I'm so going to associate those two people together for the rest of my life. And
whenever I think of Rick Emmett, I always think of Rick Emmett telling Brent Jensen to keep the pickles off the Subway sub. That just blows my mind. Who would have thought of that, man? Back Allied Force hanging on your wall.
That blew my mind. He said to me, he's like, "Hey, like, what do you want for lunch?" And I said, He goes, "Give me your Subway order. I'll pick it up for you." And I'm like, this guy's poster was on my wall when I was 14, and now he's buying me a Subway.
Yeah, for
Like,
sure.
It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous.
it's insane.
Yeah.
So before we let you go, we have to tell everybody again about maybe checking you out on Patreon.
Thank you.
And seeing what's going on there, and then
It'll make your
also
skin vibrate.
There it is.
go see Brent at his website, Brent Jensen Music, and get copies of these 3 fine books.
You just have those around?
We're always out, man.
He never
Mike.
There.
Yeah, he takes them everywhere he goes.
That's awesome.
If he's got to take his dog to the vet, he brings the books with him.
Okay, can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
D.
Yeah.
Okay, I just want to verify this. How many times? Nice. How many times have you read that book?
4.
That's amazing, man.
But as I told Mike, asked me a few hours ago this exact same question. I said, "Really 3?" Because remember, I told you before, I rifled through the book like the first 8 hours I had it. Blah, 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 so I had to go back a few days later and slow down. So yeah, I told you, man, it's my all-time favorite book, man. Like you nailed everything about what I went through in the 80s, except for your buddy who tried outrunning fire. My friends never tried outrunning fire, but I'm surprised T-Bone and Dar didn't try outrunning fire, to be honest
Maybe
with
they
you.
did.
Don't try, you won't do it.
No. So, but it's just a book that I've told you this before. It's just totally resonated with me big time. So, thanks for it. And anybody who needs a good read, I mean, Mike's on board with it now, and we'll get him caught up with those 2 other books at some point.
I definitely. As soon as I'm done this one.
Definitely hit up your website and check you out on Patreon. So now just one quick question with your podcast. Is all the podcasts going to be just coming directly out of there, or is anybody going to be able to find it elsewhere?
No, it's nothing has changed. If you so go on to patreon.com/Brent Jensen Music if you want the extras. So the extras for the podcast remains the same. Like it's still Spotify, Apple, everywhere. But if you want the extras and like all the behind the scenes stuff and the deleted content and stuff like that, that's where you go to get that. Is patreon.com/Brent Jensen Music.
Cool. To use a musical metaphor, it's like getting the bonus tracks.
It is. That's exactly what it is. Mike, it's the Japanese B-side.
Yes. So if you'd like the Japanese B-side bonus tracks to the No Sleep Till Sudbury podcast with the beginnings and the endings and uncensored. Don't forget uncensored. That's important because remember, Kiss, Animalized Live, uncensored.
Exactly.
You got to have that. So check out patreon.com/Brent Jensen Music. I think I got that right.
You did. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you for appearing tonight.
Yeah, thanks for just coming on and just freestyling. We didn't do any homework whatsoever.
No, we never do.
We just wanted to hang out with you and just shoot the shit about music in general. So hopefully maybe down the road again we can reel you back in again.
Well, it would be my honor. I tell you that very honestly, guys. Like,
thank you.
I know it's your 1-year anniversary, and I appreciate you picking me as your guest because you could have picked anybody else. And this is always a pleasure for me, guys. Very sincerely, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. I love talking to you both. I consider you both friends, and thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks,
really
and thanks for pulling out that mahogany tape case, man.
It's in pretty bad shape. I don't know what I'm going to do with it. Look at the things are all broken.
Well, a few comments up. Brian asked, he said, can I get your address where you keep that tape case for no reason at all? So, so just so you know, you might have something there.
I might. I'm gonna do some research. Those Metallica tapes, maybe. Who knows what they're worth?
I think you're sitting on some money there. I think, especially on that Bonsai label, for sure.
And, there's a bit of a renaissance for cassettes right now, so strike while the iron's hot.
All right. I'll have a look.
All right, buddy.
Cheers, Brett. You have a wonderful weekend, and I hope to talk to you soon.
You too, guys. Thanks very much.
Stay in touch. Thanks,
Take
pal.
care. Thanks, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Deke, that was a blast, eh?
Yeah, it was fun just to just talk music and just see where the conversation went. I mean, it's basically like if we were hanging out without a video stream going on, really, right?
I think I got to ask all my burning questions.
Yeah, I mean, I was glad. Like I said, I'm glad that you're, digging into the books and reading along. I mean, I know, like Brent, he appreciates the support, and if we can get any, like you said, if we can move a book or get a couple of signups through Patreon, hey, our job is complete. I mean, look at Stormforce, man. We hawked a few discs out the door for them, so
Apparently, we needed more laundry.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't even notice the Brittany Fox cassette. That's cool.
Oh shit! I was going to ask him about that because that guy's thing drove me bonkers, man.
Well, listen.
Dizzy D.
Sorry.
Remember?
I think we may have lost
Davidson.
Dizzy D. Davidson. Yeah, he was kind of like a bargain Tom Kiefer.
Ooh, yeah. Ouch.
Well, Deke, thank you so much for, thank you, Deke, for hooking us up with Brent in the first place. With that in mind, we're gonna go out on your theme song.
Bruce Willis having a stroke?
Sorry?
Bruce Willis having a stroke.
Yeah, right. You'll see. This is Balls of Steel. This is the song that T-Bone Erickson wrote for my buddy Deke there, who's always getting us some great guests on the show. And because Deke has no fear of asking anybody from Brent to Wolfgang Van Halen, this is Deke, Balls of Steel, Williamson. Have a great night, everybody. Thank you.
Thanks for watching, folks.
All right. Well, his blood runs cold, and he doesn't feel many legends told of his balls of steel. You better listen up. Never had a care, never worried who was there. He just looked you in the eye, and like a tiger hunting prey, now he decides, oh, if you live or if you die. Try to run, but there's no place to hide. Well, his blood runs cold, and it doesn't feel many legends told of his balls of steel. Bigger than a freaking Ferris wheel. Now you've been warned, he's got balls of steel. He's a little bit insane. Don't give a shit's his middle name. When he's got you in his sights, that's when you must wisely choose your demise. Oh, do you flee or do you fight? But you won't have much time before he strikes, because his blood runs cold, and it doesn't feel many legends told of his balls of steel. Bigger than a freaking Ferris wheel. Now you've been warned, he's got balls of steel. His blood runs cold, and it doesn't feel many legends told of his balls of steel. Bigger than a freaking Ferris wheel. Now you've been warned, he's got balls of steel. He's coming to collect, so you better kneel. Show your respect for his balls of steel. They play a tune like a glockenspiel. Nothing he can't do with his balls of steel. His blood runs cold, and it doesn't feel many legends told of his balls of steel. Bigger than a freaking Ferris wheel. Now you've been warned, he's got balls of steel.